Welcome, NutritionRadio.org listeners. This is Lonnie Lowry, University Nutrition Professor of over 20 years and podcast host of long-running shows like Iron Radio. Come on in. Fitness Fridays. Hey, everybody. Well, today I'm going to put on the exercise physiologist hat and set the nutrition aside a little bit, but this could be interesting to virtually everyone nonetheless. This is about menthol, topically applied to the skin. The new paper that just came out, in fact, it's a March 2023 Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research from Over and colleagues. That's the last name, O-V-E-R. Skin application of menthol enhances maximal isometric lifting performance. Now you might say, well, isometric, what's the real application there? I'm a power lifter and I have to move weight. I can't just hold it steady. But there are applications to sport, of course, and it's something that's a different kind of contraction, right, than the usual concentric or, muscle shortening contraction or even an eccentric one where the muscle is lengthening. This is from the UK. It says topical application of menthol to the skin improves perception, that is, makes subjects feel cooler, and then this is curious, changes submaximal neuromuscular recruitment. Well, now you have my attention as someone who was very interested in lifting heavy things. If you can increase neuromuscular recruitment just because of something topical, that's pretty interesting. It says we explored the effect of menthol 0.2% concentration sprayed on the legs, on perception, and on maximal dynamic lifts and isometric lifts. They took 9 resistance-trained male subjects. Now, some of the people who would listen to Iron Radio would say that, well, these guys aren't very big or very strong, but they are resistance trained. They are 75.7 kilograms, so 167 pounds. They have a 5-rep maximum in the deadlift of about 290, so they could pull 295 times. Anyway, so they have some experience. They're not large mammals, but they are experienced. It says before completing the dynamic lifts, that is the deadlift at 75% of their 1-rep max, and the mid-thigh pull dynamometer test. So if you've ever seen one of those, it's sort of like a partial mock deadlift where you just pull against the to create tension against the chain or the cable. It says, prior to that, subjects were sprayed with 125 milliliters of menthol or a control spray. So what did they find? Dynamic lifting test performance was unchanged. However, I suppose there's some promise that they say the biceps femoris EMG activity, right, the electrical activity in the muscle, showed greater muscle activation in the final, that is the 10th repetition. So no actual performance increase, but maybe something going on there with neuromuscular recruitment. It says isometric lifting task force production was higher in the menthol spray. It looks like it's about 6% increase here with a corresponding increase in EMG, right, root mean square EMG activity of the biceps femoris. Their conclusion, menthol spray enhances isometric weightlifting performance with corresponding changes in neuromuscular activity, partially supporting our hypothesis. Perhaps because it's really focused on the isometric as far as what was significant, whereas the dynamic lift performance not so much. Now, since we have just a little more time, I thought I would pull a similar paper here, like what's up with all this menthol stuff. So this is also from Journal of Strength Conditioning Research here on our fitness topic day. This is a paper from Gillis and colleagues, Gillis, from February 2020. So just a little bit older here, still fairly new paper. Influence of menthol on recovery from exercise-induced muscle damage. So these guys are going to focus not so much on the performance, but on recovery from eccentric microtrauma, if you will. So let's see here. This study assessed the influence of menthol, a cold receptor agonist, on recovery from exercise-induced muscle damage. 47 healthy males. I really think we need to stop just looking at males. I understand because of the menstrual cycle, there's a lot of issues here. It's not just sexism at work and research, although that does occur for sure. But women especially when it comes to muscle damage, they may be more robust or resistant than men. In any case, 47 healthy males this time. They had a control group, a placebo group, right? So fake menthol gel, if you will, or 4% menthol. So there's 14 to 18 subjects per group, it looks like. Muscle damage was induced on day 1 in the study using 40 15-meter sprints. Oh my goodness, 40. In my experience, you do need roughly 25 to 40 insults, if you will, eccentric kinds of insults. It really depends on the intensity. Here, of course, they're doing sprints. 40 15-meter sprints with a 5-meter deceleration zone. So that's really what's causing a lot of that braking and slowing, lengthening contractions there, making them sore. In this Gillis paper, they say the training battery immediately followed the sprints and was repeated once daily for 5 days. Again, all the different kinds of testing for recovery they did. Over this time, participants in the menthol and placebo, so fake menthol, applied gels to the lower body immediately after sprinting and twice daily thereafter, whereas the control did nothing, right? It's a true control. And that ended up being important here. A significant difference by condition in muscle soreness was found, right? So when they look across the conditions for muscle soreness, there was a reduction in muscle soreness in the placebo gel compared with either the menthol or the control group, indicating a placebo effect. This says, though, a reduction in vertical jump height across all conditions was observed with a significant effect. Right, you would expect a reduction in vertical jump when your legs are erect, with moderate to large effects of 1 to 5 centimeters observed in the group that got the menthol. They conclude that these findings raise the possibility that menthol influences recovery of lower body power after exercise-induced muscle damage, and this may have practical implications for menthol's use when recovery of muscle power is important. Now, that's the abstract. If you dig into the paper, they do go on to sort of qualify and discuss a few things. When they look at something that's an unexpected or sort of weird thing like this kind of finding, it does say both gels, remember the non-menthol one and the placebo one, contain trace amounts of camphor to make them comparable in smell. So they have to open a possibility that maybe camphor exerted some type of perceptual effect. They also say in the discussion, in conclusion, the hypothesis that topical application of menthol after exercise-induced muscle damage will lessen one's perceptions of muscle soreness compared with a control or a placebo cannot be supported. So they really can't support that preliminary idea, that predictive statement, that hypothesis that the menthol was going to help, if you will. Indeed, they say the application of any gel appears to impart a placebo effect. Now, maybe a practical application there is placebo or not, maybe applying something in just that bit of self-care after you do some negatives, right, some eccentric training. Maybe that's going to be helpful in some way. Maybe there's something going on with just the application itself or one of these other, what one might consider inert ingredients. It does say practical application. This study shows that cold receptor agonist menthol, when applied topically as a gel, can preserve vertical jumping performance and lower body power production after exercise-induced muscle damage. But the underlying mechanism is not clear. Again, because they didn't get the perceptual, right, the soreness effects that I think that they were after. And this paper talks about coupling the perceptual stuff, pain, with actual rubber hits the road performance. In any case, there's 2 papers for you. A little off-the-wall sort of exploration of menthol with that new paper that came out from the Over group, brand new, March 23, and then a little follow-up there since we had some time on the recovery side of things. That's it for this time. We'll see you later. The NutritionRadio.org podcast is for informational purposes only. If you're interested in starting a diet or exercise program, check with your physician, nutritionist, or qualified exercise physiologist in order to make the progress that you need.